In the present time, people live in security. However, a lethal virus unexpectedly spreads, disturbing the peaceful lives of the citizens. The military and a group of doctors begin controlling the infection by locking down hotspots like Moscow, while people find a way to survive, protect their families, and stay humane through all the chaos. One winter day, a sick man trudges on the snow. He coughs blood, but he persistently crawls until he reaches the river. He loses his strength and faints there, making him fall into the water. Anya wakes up from another nightmare, and her husband, Sergei, comforts her by joking around and being intimate with her. The man's phone rings, but he ignores it, and a message immediately follows, so Anya makes her husband check the phone. Then, he reads a message from his ex-wife, Ira, prompting him to come, so Sergei reluctantly leaves, saying he has to go to work, leaving Anya feeling uncertain. Afterward, Sergei plays with Anton, his son, in the park while Grandma watches. The old lady tells him that the boy is always happy to be with him, and the father answers that he'd love to take his son even once a week, but he can't. Ira storms in, reprimanding Sergei for how he carelessly plays with Anton. The former couple continues to argue until someone shouts for help. As a doctor, the grandma volunteers to help, but Ira rushes her to leave. The patient lies on the ground, coughing up blood, so the grandma covers his mouth with a handkerchief. Anton stares at the stranger whose irises are gray. While the grandma conducts CPR, Ira takes her child away to revive the man. In another part of town, Leonid, Sergei's neighbor, enters a detox clinic to pick up his daughter Polina and to pay for anything she wrecked in the facility. On the other hand, the teenager makes a mess in the bathroom by clogging the toilet with tissue, then setting it on fire. Satisfied, Polina proceeds to the reception, where her ankle monitor will be removed. Once it's gone, she shatters the table decor and leaves the facility, grinning when the fire alarm goes off. In the car, Leonid scolds his kid, but then an old woman crosses the road, and he almost hits her. The woman faces them, and they notice her gray eyes. Leonid comments that her eyes look weird and that she may be a substance user. Meanwhile, Sergei excitedly flies a drone with Mishay, his stepson, who's reading the manual instead. Unexpectedly, Leonid arrives and he corners his neighbor into having dinner with them to make it less awkward between Polina and his current pregnant partner, Marina. While the men talk, Mishay gets captivated by the rebellious girl, and when they drive past him, Polina blows a kiss to the boy. That evening, Leonid and Marina's true colors appear during the dinner, being insistent hosts and giving inappropriate jokes about the guests' relationship. Wanting to cause a commotion, Polina rubs her foot onto Mishay's leg. Not knowing how to react, Mishay leaves and bids goodbye. Polina uses this chance to use the same inappropriate joke to her parents, highlighting the gap between Leonid, a psychologist, and Marina, a club dancer. Leonid immediately sends her to a room and gives an insensitive comment about Mishay having some loose screws. Anya explains that her child has autism, causing Mishay difficulty to interact socially, but he's also very gifted, having a photographic memory. Despite this, Leonid comments on how difficult it is to care for someone like Mishay, making Anya lose her patience. Unbeknownst to them, Mishay uses his drone to spy on Polina. The girl teases the boy further, but when she removes her shirt, the boy gets too immersed, losing control of the gizmo, and it falls broken on the floor. In their house, Anya vents in front of the mirror, but her husband calls her to watch the news. A reputable virologist is being interviewed to explain the symptoms of a new virus. The professor says that it's more rampant than usual viruses, and the symptoms are coughing lots of blood and weird discoloration of the irises. He adds that death can occur a few days or faster. Then the reporter chimes in, reminding the public not to panic because the number of infected people nationwide is only 200. The virologist becomes more anxious, clarifying that they are giving people the wrong information and that there are already more than 2,000 registered patients in Moscow alone. Suddenly, the airing cuts off. The following day, Ira sees many people in the office looking sick, so she goes to the bathroom to compose herself when a woman suddenly coughs in one of the stalls. She immediately covers her mouth and nose and opens the door, seeing a woman with all the symptoms of the virus. She rushes to get her things and heads to Anton's school, where many parents panic outside as soldiers wearing hazmat suits and masks arrive at the facility. The soldiers proceed to the gym, where the exposed pupils are gathered. The soldier interrogates the teacher if the infected child has interacted with some other kids, and she affirms it. With this, the higher-ups command to quarantine the entire school. They soon proceed to the room where Natasha, the infected child, is. They find her in the corner, alone and shaking. The soldier comforts her, but then he suddenly sprays her with white liquid. The girl gets carried out on a stretcher as she cries due to the traumatic experience. Upon seeing his daughter being taken, Natasha's father rages. Ira panics and calls Anton's phone, and the kid informs her he's in the locker room, so the mom instructs him to meet her in the cafeteria. Meanwhile, the military has already barricaded the entrance to Moscow as it's closed until further notice, making Sergei unable to enter the city. He calls Ira to inform her of the situation, and the woman gets angrier at him. She reaches the cafeteria window just in time to see Anton. The boy can't open the window, so she throws a rock to break it. That evening, Mishay chats with Polina on his laptop. The girl informs him that they're all going to die and shares a link to a blogger explaining the symptoms of the virus and Moscow's chaotic state. Polina teases the boy more, but as soon as Michelle replies, the internet signal is cut off. After a while, Sergei wakes up, sensing an intruder. As an old man peeks through the glass door, Anya arrives downstairs and sees him. Upon seeing the man, Sergei lets him in, and the man is Boris, Sergei's father. The father criticizes his son for being very complacent, especially living in a glass house amidst the epidemic. He further explains that people will try to leave during an epidemic, and no military or barricade can stop them. The glass house is only a day away by foot from Moscow, and with its fragile structure, they better escape. Boris is given a room, and he asks his son about Ira and Anton's whereabouts. Sergei says they're in Moscow, and the old man sighs in disappointment. That night, when Anya's asleep, Sergei drops by his father's room and instructs him that if he's not back by morning, Boris needs to bring his wife and Michelle with him. Afterward, he leaves for Moscow. In Moscow, Ira's mother suddenly knocks on the door, so the young woman opens it. Unfortunately, the old lady's eyes are already gray, so Ira shuts the door. Despite her mom's desperate pleas, Ira refuses to let her in and she cries in despair. Meanwhile, Sergei successfully enters Moscow, hidden in a food truck. Back in the glass house, Anya discovers her husband's letter informing her of his decision. Then, she finds Michelle and Boris armed with a gun, peeking out the window. They see Leonid talking with 3 soldiers. Then they all enter his residence. In the mansion, one of the soldiers comments about his fortune, while the other man, Victor, praises Marina's beauty. Leonid shows them pictures of high-ranking military officials, emphasizing his influence. However, the soldier punches him unconscious, and the men start taking away expensive things. Unfortunately, Victor has other plans for the pregnant lady. He pours medicine into a handkerchief and muffles Marina, making the woman unconscious. Just as he's about to start his evil intentions, Polina stabs him with scissors at his nape. Consequently, the other thief heads towards Anya's house, and once he opens the gate, Boris fires a warning shot. The man is startled at first but attempts to fire back, so the old man shoots him down. Suddenly, Michelle rushes to Polina's house and grabs the thief's gun. The other thief intercepts him, but Boris covers for him. At Leonid's residence, Victor strangles the teenager, but the intelligent girl kicks the nearby window to make them both fall on their back. As they fall, the scissors pierce Victor's throat, ending his life. The last thief informs Boris that he wants to take the body of his friend, and so he does, then leaves. Once he's gone, Anya dashes to follow Michelle while Polina pours water on Leonid's head to wake him up. Boris takes some extra bullets from Victor and informs everyone they must leave. In Moscow, Sergei pays the food truck driver to wait 15 minutes before rushing to Ira's house. Unfortunately, a group of armed men sees the driver and heads to him. Sergei arrives at Ira's residence, and he is warmly welcomed. He instructs her to get Anton as they have to leave urgently. Outside, they find the ransacked food truck, so Sergei tells Ira to ride immediately. He removes the dead driver just in time for the gang of armed men to appear, and fortunately, Sergei successfully drives off. Soon after, they arrive at the border, and the inspection begins. Ira and Anton are found, so Sergei hurriedly drives off while soldiers fire mercilessly at them. On the other hand, the remaining thief returns to their base. Sanya, the brother of the man Boris shot, commands everyone to prepare for revenge, and they all set out. Back in the glass house, everyone has packed up and is ready to go, but Anya stubbornly refuses to leave without Sergei. Suddenly, they hear a vehicle approaching, so Boris and Leonid prepare to shoot. Luckily, it's Sergei, Ira, and Anton who arrive in the food truck. Anya warmly welcomes her husband while the ex-wife glares at them. Sergei asks his wife to let Ira borrow a coat since they didn't have time to pack. Anya leads Ira to her wardrobe, and the ex-wife admits to the current wife how much she hates her. Anya is left speechless, and Sergei drags her out of the house. Meanwhile, Michelle spots a car approaching and warns his group. When Sergei and Anya leave the house, they run frantically as the car chases after them. On the other hand, the gang shoots down a couple. The men identify the bodies and discover they're in the wrong location, so they head off again. Simultaneously, the car chasing Anya and Sergei stops, and a man steps out, asking for help since his wife, Vika, is in labor. Suddenly, Ira fires a warning shot so that the strangers can't come any closer since they could be infected. Sergei calmly apologizes, and Marina hands over a maternity card to a clinic nearby and directs them there instead. The group resumes packing, and Sergei asks Leonid for spare diesel for his wife's car. The rich man says some are on the shelf in the garage. Once the younger man locates the diesel, Ira arrives, insisting on riding with her ex-husband, but the man firmly declares they will be with Boris. Anton stubbornly clings to his dad when they start to head off, so Anya decides to ride with Boris instead. As the group begins their journey, the elderly man suggests to his comrades through the transceiver that it's better to go to a diversion road since the gang may use the main road. Both men agree, but Anya obstinately drives to the main road, so the others have no choice but to follow. Seconds after, her car begins emitting smoke, and it eventually stops. When they check it, Leonid confirms if Sergei got the diesel on the shelf since that's the winter diesel, and the younger man answers he got the one under the shelf. Meanwhile, the gang arrives at at Leonid's residence and locates Victor's body. Sanya opens the tablet on the table and sees the pictures of the house owners, their car, and especially Leonid's face. Back to the group, Boris suggests they'll just tow Anya's car, but Sergei didn't bring a towing rope, dismaying Leonid and his dad. The two older men search Leonid's car for a tow line, and the rich man prods Boris about their destination. The older man answers that they're headed to Lake Vonkozera in Karelia. However, Boris begins coughing, and instead of handing over the tow line, Leonid pretends he doesn't have it. The older man suggests they must return rather than stay in the middle of the road, or he would drive back alone to retrieve the towing line. The rich man volunteers to return with Marina and Polina despite the others' warning that the gang may be in his house. Polina confirms she saw the tow line in the trunk and that abandoning the group is wrong. Still, Leonid argues that their companions are troublesome. Anton falls asleep in Sergei's car, so Sergei is about to head to Anya, but Ira prevents him from leaving. On the other hand, Leonid informs his girls that they're heading to Lake Ladoga. He also adds that they're crossing Finland once they're there. The father and daughter continue to argue until Marina interrupts them by asking where to sleep and saying that she has to have a bathroom break, leaving Leonid with no choice but to stop over. The couple walk further from the road to look for a place for Marina, leaving Polina in the car. Seconds after, the teenager spots a group of vehicles approaching. Sanya recognizes Leonid's car, and the armed gang surrounds it, finding it empty. The leader commands his men to search the woods, so the family who's watching nearby runs away. They hide under a slope, and the gang stops just above them. Sanya orders his men to resume the search. Angered, he aims the gun at his comrades, and when he turns his back, Leka, a gang member, shoots him down instead. Then they return to their base. In Sergei's car, Ira narrates how she abandoned her mother due to the infection, and her ex-husband consoles her. Anton wakes up and turns on the transceiver, making Anya and Boris hear the conversation. The old man turns it off, but Anya grabs it to hear the events. In the end, Sergei promises Ira he will always be there for her. Anya is about to speak when Leonid contacts them. This time, the rich man asks Sergei to pick them up, saying they got the tow line. Ira disagrees, but her ex-husband tells his neighbor he'll come. The woman insists on accompanying him, but he firmly declines. Upon hearing the conversation through the transceiver, Anya leaves her car and declares she's coming, which Sergei can't reject. In the end, Sergei and his two families head to Leonid's location while Boris stays in Anya's car. When they arrive, the psychologist inquires about the off-track location. Leonid narrates about the trouble they encountered with the gang. Then, he tells an absurd alibi about his attempt to abandon Sergei's group and confesses he only used the tow line as an excuse. Anya scoffs through it but invites them in the car, while Ira angrily states the blatant lie and declares they don't have to return with them. Leonid interrupts the argument by saying that there's a fuel station nearby and they will just be dropped off there. As they arrive, Leonid's family leaves the car, and the man pleads with the people there, offering money to anyone who can give them a ride. Meanwhile, Ira insists on leaving. Michelle declares they can all fit in, while Anya lets her husband decide what to do. Suddenly, a man begins coughing, and people panic. A random man stabs the sick man, making people leave quickly. With this, Sergei also drives off, abandoning Leonid's family. The rich man spots the fuel station owner and offers money for them to be allowed to stay, and they find shelter for the day. When Sergei returns to Boris, the old man explains that he warmed up Anya's car so it can run for at least a few miles. Before they set off, he comments that though it's a tough time, the occurrences are inhumane. Leonid's family settle down at the fuel station with drinks, but the owner offers Polina liquor instead. Leonid glares at his daughter, making her refuse. However, the insistent owner approaches Polina with interest. The father blocks him, but the owner gets agitated, pointing a gun at them and forcing the family to leave. Just as Marina breaks down, Polina sees vehicles approaching, revealing Sergei's group. They offer the family a ride, and Sergei mentions the fuel, so Leonid suggests a plan. Sergei tricks the owner into opening his store window as the two older men infiltrate the store. They take the fuel when Anya suddenly yells Michelle's name. The mom scolds her son for touching the infected body, and the intelligent teenager mentions he isn't sick. Sergei confirms it, so they take the man's car and load gallons of fuel into the truck for reserve. Leonid apologizes to Sergei but suddenly returns to his rude self, mentioning an inappropriate joke about his neighbor and Ira. As the group begins their journey, Boris explains on the radio that Lake Vonkozera is a place he discovered when he was lost with Sergei's mom. There, they discover an abandoned ship from the previous war. The elderly man adds that he's been going there every day for 40 years, and it's equipped with everything. Most of all, it's isolated, and the lake is abundant with fish. Everyone feels relieved to know about their haven when a severe cough is heard through the transmission. They ask each other who's coughing. Then, a random man introduces himself as Igor. He starts a small talk and coughs severely in between. The group understands he's infected, and Igor asks anyone to pray for him. Unfortunately, no one knows how. Boris suddenly begins reciting a prayer, but he stops, saying that he's forgotten the rest. Michelle interjects and recites the prayer as everyone listens in solemn silence.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.